Welcome back to the Night Sky Knitting Podcast. My name is Rachel, I am your host, and I am a knitter based in Canada. And this channel is my chatty outlet to talk all things crafts, but actually almost exclusively knitting with occasional guest appearances by other crafts. Today is Saturday, January 29th. It is early afternoon. It's very cold and very sunny where I am here today. And yeah, all patterns and yarns will be linked in the description box below as per usual, but I don't often remember to say that in the introduction, and I think it's important. It's been about 3 weeks since we last filmed, and it seems that I've settled into a once every 3 week podcast schedule that just seems to feel right for me. And I think that this one's going to be a shorter one because I don't have a lot to show you, but I do have a lot to talk about. And I try and keep a balance of longer and shorter podcasts whenever possible because I know that people's preferences for that vary. And yeah, okay. So, and also I got new glasses. I don't normally film while wearing my glasses because I like not having my glasses on when I film, A, to show my face, but B, because I have a very strong prescription. My eyesight is not very good at all, and I film with a forward-facing camera on my iPad. And I like not being able to see myself very clearly, so that way I can A, just focus on the little red dot next to the camera, so I'm focusing as much as possible on you guys and not like on myself. And B, I think in general it's good to not spend too much time looking at my own face, but because I just got new glasses, whenever I get new glasses, because I have to wear them kind of all the time, I can't even read my laptop screen, even with the font size increased, without my glasses or contact lenses, but I wear those less often. It feels like a really drastic change when I get new glasses, and even though I like these a lot, and I think that they suit me more or less, it feels like I've changed my face kind of, and so I'm thinking that by wearing these during the podcast and then editing the podcast back, I spend a lot of time looking at my face with the glasses to kind of just get used to how my face looks with them. So that's kind of my plan, and that's why you're seeing them today. So yeah, I feel like those are all of my introductory notes and thoughts, and I'm sure I've forgotten something, but I think we're going to jump right on it. Okay, what have I been working on in the past 3 weeks? So, first things first. Last video, I was wearing my barely finished, unblocked crescendo blouse by the Knit Pro Girl, aka Sophie Hemmings, and I said that I would wear it blocked in the next podcast episode so you could kind of see what it looks like actually finished, and so I'm going to stand up and show you because I'm wearing it again right now. So, here it is. I haven't woven in all my ends. I just tuck it in. Yeah, it has these beautiful puffy sleeves, beautiful lace yoke. I knit this with one strand of Cascade Heritage Solid Sock Yarn, one strand of Knit Picks Aloft Mohair, and I am absolutely thrilled with the finished object. It's a DK weight project, and the pattern was actually released yesterday. So, and I'm pretty sure there's an introductory discount if you go to the Knit Pro Girls Instagram account. So, if you're interested, I highly recommend this pattern. It was a joy to test. I feel so lucky that I was able to do so, and there's a very good chance I will knit myself another one of these in the future. Maybe with just a regular long sleeve and a more neutral color just to have a little bit of variety between the two, but I found this thoroughly enjoyable to knit. I think it fits very, very well, and I love wearing it. I wear it a lot. I think that this is a very good beginner lace pattern. I don't think it's a very good beginner sweater pattern, but if you're intimidated by lace, but you want to try it, I do think this is a good sweater for that. Because I don't have a lot of lace knitting experience, and I found this easy peasy, including as a left-handed knitter. Just follow the chart exactly, including, from the starting point, knit it backwards for us, but right for them, if that makes sense. It probably didn't, but I know that there's very few other mirror knitters out there, so I'm trust that those people will know what I mean. And also, not that many people are going to stumble upon this and be confused by the instructions I just gave. So, check it out if you're interested. I do recommend. Alright, so, the end of my last podcast episode, I said that my immediate knitting plans were to knit a pair of gift socks using the Charlotte Stone pattern called the Blooming Lavender socks for my friend's birthday. And when I was just kind of talking, I often realize things as I talk. I'm very much an external processor, which is part of the reason why having a podcast is good. And it kind of hit me at the very end of that episode that I promised my boyfriend I'd knit him a sweater for our anniversary, despite my superstitious fears of the sweater curse. And it kind of hit me that, oh, our anniversary is like coming up soon. And if I'm going to knit a men's large sweater without, stressing myself out, I should probably get started on that pretty soon. And so that's what I did. Those are my main two projects to show you this video. So going in chronological order, my first project, my only finished object for today is the Blooming Lavender sock by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits. For some reason, in my last video, I said the designer's name was Charlotte Welsh. I have no idea where I came up with that. Her handle and her, brand name is literally Stone Knits. So where did I come up with Welsh? Couldn't tell you. But here's the pair of socks. I knit these in San Nisgarn Sisu yarn using the cream color. I think this is light lilac. And then I think they're green or dark green. And I think that they came out beautifully. Obviously, I still have to weave in ends. However, I did not enjoy knitting these. I did knit all. It was very much a labor of love because this is one of my best friends' birthday gift. And mostly because I hated the yarn. I feel kind of bad saying that. But, there's 2 balls of it. There are 3 balls of it in this room. I have quite a bit left over, and they're staring me down like they can hear me say this, but I didn't like knitting with it. I found it incredibly splitty. I found it very loosely plied, which makes me nervous about the durability of these as a sock yarn. And it made color work, catching floats, to be just a huge pain. It made tinking back a pain. It made laddering down a pain, and all of these things had to happen more because the yarn was so splitty that often there would be little bits that it wasn't a nice, always even stitch because parts of the yarn would split. And I'm not usually someone who has problems with that. I've worked with other yarns that other people have called splitty in the past and not found them really that annoying to work with at all. And I think I also went into this with pretty high hopes or high expectations and hopes because it's my first time working with San Nisgarn, which seems to be one of those brands that other people rave about. And it seemed to have, it's a family-run-ish business using Norwegian sheep and, all good things. And I just had a bad time. And I also really went into using this yarn with very high hopes because it is so affordably priced. I think my local yarn stores, several of them in Canada, stock this. I got mine from Unit on Bloor Street in Toronto, if that means anything to anybody. And it's $6.50 a ball Canadian, which is $4.50 US. And their color selection is amazing. And they come in 50-gram balls, which is good for me, someone who loves knitting colorwork socks. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. Also, I'm a little bit scared that my neighbor is in the adjoining room and can hear all of this and thinks I'm a weirdo, but that's okay. And I just so didn't enjoy it. Please, if other people have worked with this yarn and have tips or tricks for avoiding these problems, I don't know. And part of it is because this sock pattern does have some long floats and you do need to catch your floats. Maybe I need to come up with a better technique for float catching to make this less miserable, but I just didn't enjoy it. Also, if you don't make as many mistakes as I do, then maybe it wouldn't be an issue because you won't have to tink back, you won't have to ladder down, you won't have to rib back, but having to do any of these things in these socks was with this yarn was kind of a nightmare. I complained about this on my Instagram story, which isn't usually very much like me. I took some photos to kind of tell you guys what I mean. So hopefully I'll maybe insert those now, but the yarn would kind of untwist as I was knitting with it, especially whenever I caught floats, and I was constantly having to retwist it myself. and it just made me very nervous. The ply, it was very loosely twisted or loosely spun. I don't know, man. It wasn't a good time. But it was worth it because I still think that these came out so wonderfully. I recommend the pattern. I just recommend the yarn. I did make some mistakes. First of all, I can't seem to get the eye of partridge heel right. It's supposed to be an eye of partridge heel. You can't really tell. On both of them, I had a row where I kind of messed up the eye of partridge and it just looks like a slip stitch heel. And then on one of them, I have like one little, here's my little rogue lavender bloom stitch. Can you see it? I'm sorry, the sun is, oh yeah, there we go. You can see that. And then on the other sock, there are a few stitches where it's supposed to be like one, but then I get two, and then I got it right for one, and then I was wrong here again for two. I don't think that'll upset my friend. And for the first sock, I didn't do enough gusset decreases. I think I radically counted wrong, or maybe just didn't count at all and assumed I knew what I was doing, which is dumb. And had to it got to about here, started doing the preparations for the toe color work. This part, super enjoyable, really good, really well done. And realized I knit this on 2.25 millimeter needles with a 64 stitch count. And I only did gusset decreases the first time, and I had 72 stitches, which is not correct. So I ripped back the whole sock and did it again. Stockinette and this is fine. And maybe if you held it with another yarn, it would be fine to make a sweater because it is affordable and it's wool, and I want to like this. I want to like this so bad, but it just wasn't for me. But I have a lot left and then I have to continue knitting with it, so maybe my opinion will change. Maybe I'll regret the slander I've committed against Sandnes Garn Sisu. But finished object number 1, didn't like the yarn, do like the pattern, as long as you don't mind catching long floats. I wish the sizing was a little bit better. It's all based on a 64 stitch count sock, and then you go up and down needle sizes for different sizes, but that kind of doesn't really work for me as someone with different size foot. So, but these are a gift, so it's okay. Obviously, I have a bunch of arm ends to weave in still. And if you watched my last episode, you might be thinking, Rachel, didn't you say that you would knit all of these very quickly and then send them off well in advance of her birthday so it wasn't hanging over you? Yeah, I did say that. And then I started knitting these socks, and then winter break ended, and I was thrown back into full-time school and part-time work. And I think I had made that plan, or I know that I had made that plan kind of while forgetting that, like, I have responsibilities, and with a winter break mindset of, like, how much time I have. And I was just kind of not enjoying it. Like, I blew through the color work section in a day and a half for one sock, and then I was like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to really enjoy color work, and I'm not having a good time? Like, what is the point of this? Her birthday's in the middle of February. Why am I, like, stressing myself out and not enjoying something that I love doing just to get it done a month in advance? Canada Post is slow, but it's not that slow. Why was I doing this to myself? So I slowed down. I finished them a couple days ago. I'm going to weave in the ends today, and then I think either if I make it in time before the post office closes, mail them either this evening or probably Monday. If the truckers in Ottawa, if the convoy in Ottawa, some of whom are truckers and many more of whom are jumping on the bandwagon of being not community-minded people and slandering the vast majority of truckers who are good civic-minded individuals. If the convoy in Ottawa doesn't ruin my life and make it impossible for me to get back to my house and to the post office, then I'll mail these on Monday. So we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. Actually, I probably won't, because I don't want to complain on the podcast. I'll save that for my real life. Yeah, really enjoyable. One day I will learn how to do an eye of partridge heel properly, but this month did not include that day. Sorry, this is in the way. Yeah, you can see. Can't do it. I'm not doing it right. I keep following the instructions, and I'm just clearly I'm doing something wrong, because this is the second pair of socks I've tried with an eye of partridge heel. I don't mind. I think I'm just going to keep doing it and then keep getting it wrong, and then one day I'll get it right. Because the heel eye that I keep getting instead are still stretchy, comfortable, and extra protection at the heel against wear, so that's fine. So yeah, that's my only finished object. And my priority, right after the last time we spoke, along with the anker sweater, my boyfriend's size by petiteknit. Oh, but no, I'm skipping something, which I forgot to mention the last time I recorded, yesterday, 24 hours ago. So I started these socks, and we were all well in the clear for COVID, and so we went up to visit my grandfather, and I was finally able to give him his socks. And I did not take a photo, and thank goodness for this, they fit perfectly. All of my stress was worth it. All of my intense thinking about it was worth it. All the advice you gave was very helpful. They fit beautifully. He was so happy, and he emailed me about a week ago when the cold front, or no, 2 weeks ago, when the cold front came into Ontario. Well, actually Ontario and Quebec. When it got really cold in lots of Canada, he emailed me to say thank you again for the socks, and that the cold front has nothing on him when he has his wool socks. So, victory, thank goodness. I'm so happy to have made those for him. It was so worth it. And I did not take a photo. I did not have the chance, but maybe one day I will. But they work quite well. If anything, they're almost tight, which is wild considering I think I knit a 70 stitch leg on 3.25 millimeter needles. But like, that's kind of what happens when, ever since heart surgery, your legs are always swollen. So, and he really, really appreciated. So I think a lot of the issue he's been having with store-bought socks is the elastic band at the top, which have been digging in and making it uncomfortable. So I'm very happy that my step-grandma warned me about this, and I was able to do a 3x1 rib kind of construction, which I think means that they don't dig and it's a lot more, it still fits snugly, but isn't, digging in. So all is well. That's my update on my grandfather's socks. They went well. So I'm really happy. Because I was quite nervous. I mean, you guys know, you've been here, but yeah. So, started working on these socks. Went up, knit them at my grandfather's house, gave him his socks, and I came back to the city, and because he lives north of the city, and went to Knit-O-Matic and bought the yarn for my boyfriend's sweater, which, like I just said, is the petiteknit anker sweater, my boyfriend's size. He chose this pattern himself, and I chose the yarn, but then had him choose colors. So, I picked up 8 hanks of this, which is Barocco Vintage DK in the color Twilight. And, I mean, you can see how beautiful this is. The light is picking it up quite nicely. It almost looks heathered, but it's not, labeled as heathered officially. That's so cool. There was a gust of wind and a bunch of snow came up, and it was quite lovely. Yeah, this is 52% acrylic, or no, polyester, 40% wool, superwash, and 8% nylon. No, I was right the first time. 52% acrylic. You can see that. It's a DK weight. It is very affordable. It's 100 grams for like $9 Canadian. And contrary to the Sandnes Garn Sisu, I have loved working with this. I'll show you my whip. This is my main whip for today. I'm holding it in my Kelborn Woolens Scout project bag that I got with my Christmas gift card. And it has use your hands, and then in the front, crochet on the back. I do appreciate the representation for both crafts because I do both crafts, even if I currently prefer knitting. And yeah, this was kind of the complete opposite of the Blooming Lavender sock experience for me. I didn't expect to love knitting this. I mean, obviously I wouldn't have sent him the pattern as an option or this yarn as an option if I wasn't willing to and didn't think I would, have a decent enough time. But I had really high hopes for the enjoyment of this yarn and this pattern, and it was kind of a slog. And then I just thought that these would be okay, and I have absolutely loved knitting this. So this is what it looks like. I'm on the body. I'm knitting the 4th size, which is a men's large, according to petiteknit sizing. He's kind of in between a medium and a large, and I thought, because I knit tightly, better to have it a little bit looser than, because he wears shirts underneath his sweaters a lot of the time. So I thought, give him a little bit more space. And because I didn't know how much this would grow with blocking because of the synthetic content. But, so I worked with this yarn before. If you watched to the end of my last video, which was kind of long, so that's not going to be a lot of people, I showed you guys my first ever garment that I made, which is a crochet sweater that I've been in the process of ripping up to repurpose the yarn. And I also knit it in Barocco Vintage DK in a color name that I have forgotten because it was a year and a half ago that I bought the yarn, but the exact same fiber content and the exact same producer. And that one feels, it's like a silvery pine color, which I think is gorgeous, and I'm going to continue to wear. I'm going to still knit it up and wear it and be happy. But that one feels significantly more synthetic and plasticky. Like I instinctively, after winding it up, ripping it out and winding it up again, I almost kind of wanted to like wash. It felt plasticky on my hands a little bit. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you do. And because I've been so used to working with very natural fibers recently. But this one doesn't feel like that at all. It's so soft and fluffy compared to the green. I'm wondering if, just based on the nature of how dyes work, this requires much less dye, and it kind of has this heathered effect. So I guess maybe they're using less dye compared to how greens work, which is why the green feels more synthetic versus this, which is so soft. It's been just a joy to knit with. I wish I could articulate this better, what I've been finding so enjoyable about it, but it doesn't feel like a rustic woolly wool, but it doesn't feel like an acrylic either, even though it is 60% synthetic fibers. I'm finding the color to be wonderful. They have a huge color selection, and Nathan chose this for himself, and I think that was a wonderful choice. I also sent him a whole bunch of, over the course of several months, many different sweater pattern ideas, and he kept coming back to this one. And I'm quite glad that he chose this, because I think that with the super stretchy yoke, it kind of gives me some peace of mind that it will fit well, even though I don't have him immediately available to try it on constantly like I would if I was knitting this for myself. And this has been really enjoyable. I thought that the ribbed yoke would be really tedious, and I thought that this yarn would be kind of tedious, and I, for some reason, could not get enough of this. It's literally a 1x1 rib yoke, and I'm used to thinking of rib as kind of tedious. I don't really mind purling, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't love it. I don't like it as much as the knit stitch, but I don't mind purling. But I do normally find ribbing to get kind of tedious after a little while, and I'm starting to, I think this has shown me it's not because of the rib itself, it's because of psychologically where ribbing is at a project for me. It's either at the very beginning when I'm just antsy to get on with it and get started and do the fun stuff like the lace yoke or the stockinette yoke or the increases or the drum churros or whatever, or at the very end, the cuffs, when I really want to just finish it and block it and wear it and have that garment. When I was doing it as the yoke, I blew through this. I had to actually stop and put this down and make myself put work into these instead, even though I theoretically should enjoy this so much more and I love sock knitting than I thought that I did a 1x1 rib. And yeah, I've been going a little bit more slowly now that I'm on the stockinette body, which is kind of counterintuitive, but it's just not holding my attention the same way. But I was working on this at my boyfriend's house yesterday, and he was really excited, and I'm really excited, and I think that this has been a very satisfying project. I'm very happy that I started when I did to get it done in time for our anniversary, while also giving myself time to put this down and work on other stuff. And I really do recommend the pattern so far, and I recommend this yarn. I know a lot of people don't love superwash or synthetic fibers, and I understand that, and I think for myself, I do tend that way a lot too. But if you're open to such things, Barocco Vintage DK maybe if it's available at a local store to you. Knit-O-Matic in Toronto stocks it, and they do ship, but if you're in the GTA somewhere, the Greater Toronto area, it might be worth checking out and seeing how different colors feel like this compared to the other one that I have. Because it's very affordable, and for me, because this is a gift, it's very important that it be machine washable. Because a gift is, we're not making gifts with us in mind. We're making gifts for the recipient, with the recipient in mind. And I know that my boyfriend would try and hand wash this if I told him he had to, but he wouldn't enjoy it and it would stress him out. And I've seen this with my brother, who, even though I make him stuff that is also machine washable, he's so careful with it to the point where he almost doesn't use it or enjoy it. And when I said to my brother, no, you can wash your blanket in the machine, you can't even put it in the dryer, I just don't recommend it as much. And I knit him Patton's Croix socks, and I said, no, you can wear these out. It's not going to happen very quickly. Go for it. The relief was palpable. Because my boyfriend and my brother and my mom know how much time these things take me, and they appreciate that a lot. And when we make stuff, we have to think of the lifestyle and the needs and the comfort level of the person who's receiving it. So yeah, while I would like to knit my boyfriend or my brother rustic woolly wools, natural fibers, things that'll biodegrade and represent maybe our values a little bit more, yeah, but also that's not going to suit their lifestyle and their needs. And that will stress them out, not give them something that they can just enjoy and be really happy about. And so when I said, hey, this is machine washable, it's an acrylic wool blend, which means it's softer because my boyfriend has very sensitive skin, and it's gonna last and hold up. He was so happy. He said, thank you, I really appreciate that. I wasn't gonna ask, but it does, give me a lot of relief. And I said, of course. And I would never make you anything that you had to hand wash, because I know that the first time I said, hey, would you be willing to hand wash a garment that I made for you? He said, what, like down by the river, like in the old days? And he wasn't doing that to be like sarcastic or to be mean. He literally didn't realize people still hand wash stuff. He's just, he has a lot of cotton t-shirts and jeans and stuff that's hard wearing and store-bought and lasts forever. I mean, he's been wearing, it was a big deal when we finally tossed the old Navy shirts that he's been wearing since literally middle school. Actually, we didn't even toss them. They're just now retired from outdoor wear and are now pajama wear, which is, of course, a very good thing, that we wear our things to death, that we appreciate what we have, and that we're not in this cycle of constantly tossing out stuff and getting new ones. But, I mean, that's kind of like what he wears most of the time. I mean, he's gotten like office-appropriate clothes now that he's working, but I'm on a tangent. Point of this is, I'm not anti-superwash, and I'm not anti-acrylic, and I'm not anti-synthetic fibers. I don't love them as much. And I do, for myself, since I know I'm willing to hand wash, like to avoid synthetics for myself. But also, sometimes I want to be able to just toss my socks in the washer. And sometimes I want to knit things for other people that that's not going to stress them out and not going to shrink and not going to shred. So, that was my what was that? My little tangent to endorse Barocco Vintage DK. And I think that if you're in the market, you should check it out. And I think that this is very good for gift knits. They also have a worsted and a chunky line of these. I'm not sure. I know that the Barocco Vintage line, which I'm pretty sure has very similar, if not the same fiber contents, comes in a variety of weights and of so many colors. And I'm actually quite impressed with my boyfriend picking this color and picking this pattern. I mean, I gave him many different pattern options, but I think that that makes it sound like it was a complete fluke, but I appreciate his eye for such things as well. So yeah, he's really excited, and he's so incredibly knitworthy, and I've been really, really enjoying this project. So, as you can see, because of how much I've knit on a men's large in 2.5 weeks. Yeah, I think this will also relax a little bit with blocking, and as Nathan said, also as he wears it, it'll stretch out a little bit. So, I think I'll show it to you probably before I end up giving it to him. But yeah, that's my update. That's my main whip. And those are the two main things that I've been knitting for the past little while. I've been almost a monogamous knitter. If I didn't have the socks, actually no, I would probably still want, I really prefer to have two projects on the needles that have like maybe one portable one and one not portable one. One that has just basic stockinette and the other where there's some texture or interest. I like having things to switch between. But it means that I don't have as much to show you, which maybe is a good thing, a little bit of a shorter episode. But since I finished the socks, the Blooming Lavender socks a couple days ago, I've come back to my Magic Toadstool socks, which are also by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits. She had a sale a few months ago for her birthday, I think, and so I think all her patterns were like 20 or 25% off, so I got two. The Blooming Lavender and then these. And I was working on these, I think these were my Christmas Day cast on, as represented by my little Christmas tree stitch marker from my mother. And I put these on hold for a while to do the Blooming Lavender socks because I only have one pair of 2.25 millimeter needles. And then once I finish those, I've come back to these. I've added the little stalks using leftover Sandnes Garn Sisu double yarn. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean. I'm almost done the color work, and oh yeah, the little stalks are leftover Sandnes Garn Sisu. Again, see, like, it's so great for color work. I just wish that it was better for color work. It's great for color work in theory. It is not great for color work in practice, is my experience. I do think it would be good for projects where you don't have to really catch floats, and if you're better at, I guess, at not splitting yarn than I am. The rest of it is in Amano Chosky yarn. I talk about this so often. I got 300 grams of it in the summer to knit myself socks, and I have small feet and I don't like long socks, and so I just have a lot of it. I think I'm definitely playing yarn chicken with the blue, and I'm going to have at least enough for another. I have an idea for another pair of socks with this, so I'll do that at some point. You'll see. Man, that was a little bit all over the place. That's what I'm using. Look at these colors. Are they not scrumptious? Is this not just the most beautiful, whimsical thing you've ever seen in your entire life? I'm very excited. You can do 3-color color work to have the little white spots on the toadstools if you'd like. I just kind of wasn't in the mood to try 3-color color work for the first time while I was sick with COVID, because I wasn't hospitalized, which, man, what a low bar, but I was definitely like sick for a few days. And that's a long way of saying I'm gonna duplicate stitch the little guys on afterwards, which is good because I think that they will look amazing, but also it'll be my first time using duplicate stitch, so that's learning a new skill. Very excited about that. I love to learn new skills. And also using up a little bit more of this, which I want to like. Maybe we'll improve our relationship with time. But yeah, this is my current whip along with the sweater. And that's pretty much all the knitting I have to show you guys. I have also done a few more rounds on my petiteknit fortune sweater. This episode is almost entirely stone knits and petiteknit. How funny is that? Wow. And then I guess Sophie Hemming is the knit pro girl with this, but not as an active like project that I'm showing you guys. But I'm not going to show you the fortune sweater because it feels like very often I hold it up and you can't actually tell a difference. I know that there's another inch, but it looks basically the same. But I'm also knitting the fortune sweater, and I'm really enjoying it. But these projects had deadlines. I'm pointing to the Blooming Lavender socks and the anker sweater. And the fortune sweater is absolutely nowhere near warm enough for the current weather that we have in Canada in January. And so I'm not as motivated to finish it because I know I'm not going to wear it until April if I'm lucky, and May realistically. It's a very beautiful spring, maybe summer night sweater, and then autumn sweater. And so I'm kind of enjoying putting in a few rows of that here and there, but I've got other stuff capturing my attention, my imagination, and my hands. Also, I have a job in school, but I do have a few acquisitions. So, I mean, technically I bought 8 skeins of this. My boyfriend and I split the cost of the yarn. I appreciate that. And it wasn't very expensive to begin with. So I think my And Knit-O-Matic, you can get 10% off if you order more than $75 worth of yarn online, and this was. So I think this ended up being like $32 for me and $32 for him or something like that. And then I have a few other acquisitions. I talked about, 2 of them are kind of fake acquisitions because I actually did talk about them in my last video, but I hadn't received them yet. So the first is this beautiful, I'm actually obsessed with it, this beautiful skein of yarn from the Love Stitch fibers. It is non-superwash sock. It's 75% wool, 25% nylon. It's non-superwash. And it is, I think it's an oopsie or a kind of one-of-a-kind, look at that flop. I think either this was a mistake skein or it was like a color experimentation that Tiara, the dyer, decided just kind of not to continue with. So she put it in her shop for a discount. And because at the time, this is before I caught COVID, the plan was for me to go spend New Year's with my father in South Florida, where he's lived for 8 years. He's not a snowbird. He lives there full time. That's where his job is because he's American. And it's significantly less expensive to ship things to Florida than it is to Canada if they're based in the US for obvious reasons. Shipping's much less expensive. You don't have to deal with customs and duty or whatever. So I shipped it to my dad's. And then I couldn't go, but then I ended up going anyway. I got back 3 days ago. I went for 12 days to see my father because he's my father. I missed him. Haven't seen him in a year. Already caught COVID. Was very careful. I feel a little bit like, not defensive about it, but nervous about judgment. But I promise I did not go to Florida to party or do anything that I shouldn't have been doing. I was literally there with my dad doing my master's program online while he worked. We went for some bike rides. We went for lunch on patios a couple times, and I spent most of the time trying to win over his new cat. And we had a lovely family time together. But I promise you, I was not doing anything that I shouldn't have been doing. I was wearing a mask. I was following COVID guidelines as I understand them here in Canada, even if they don't really exist in Florida, the same way. And I picked up my yarn. So it has these beautiful speckles. And this is technically supposed to be a sock yarn. I have 100 grams of it. I also definitely think that you should check out Tiara. I have talked about how much I enjoy the Love Stitch podcast before, but I really want to recommend her yarn as well if you're in the market for hand-dyed yarn, because Tiara's eye for color, I think, is just wonderful. And I thought that, that's part of the reason why I'm so drawn to her podcast, is I just adore her makes. But now that she's doing yarn, I think you should check it out and support her, because look at this. Come on, look at that. It's so nice. And I think this is now destined to be a little summer top and not a pair of socks. It's so soft, even in the Florida humidity. And I guess this is the coolest time of year for them still, but it still felt pretty hot to me. And this still wasn't scratchy at all. And I think I want a little summer top in this. I have been waffling. I just can't seem to find the proper pattern. I was maybe looking at one of My Favorite Things camisoles, but none of them seem quite right, or are like a little bit more texture than I want for this, or the shape isn't quite right. And then I was thinking maybe like a Jessie May So Summer shirt, but I don't think I have enough. And I don't want to play yarn chicken or like have to dramatically modify some type of pattern to make it work. So this might end up being a My Secret Little Crop, because I get so much wear out of those, but that's not going to use up the full amount of yardage, and I do want to use up the full 100 grams if possible. So if you guys have any recommendations for fingering weight, not a lot of texture, super easy, everyday wearable summer tops, let me know. I'm very interested. And you guys have come to me with some wonderful recommendations lately. I didn't have time to respond, and they disappeared and I couldn't respond, but 2 people recommended the Tolk cardigan by Albiona McLaughlin. I think that's closest to pronouncing her last name correctly as I'm going to get. I'm going to be honest with you. And on my Instagram story, when I asked for cardigan recommendations, and I'm absolutely going to cast that on at some point. It does exactly what I wanted, and I appreciate whoever recommended it, so thank you. But acquisition number 1. Actually, no, acquisition number 2, but also from last episode. My other one is I talked about how I ordered as I'm feeling sad and sorry for myself because I have COVID and am in quarantine and can't visit my father and can't see my boyfriend and I'm sick. Consolation prize, I ordered... So Emily C. Gillies is a local Toronto dyer who has a monthly yarn club, which is like a surprise one, and it's called the Luck of the Draw Yarn Club, and you can order you can order minis on a bunch of different bases, and you can either get like a bunch of 50-gram skeins or a bunch of 20-gram skeins, and so I went for the 20-gram skeins and the sock yarn. It's a 80-20 merino nylon blend, and the mood board or like the inspiration board for January was just so stunning, and I did it. And they arrived. So, okay, if you participate in the Emily C. Gillies Luck of the Draw Yarn Club and you have not gotten your January order, which is very likely considering the delays of the snow here in Canada from recently, avert your eyes. Don't look. Skip ahead. I'll maybe put a timestamp somewhere. Here they are. Look at these. Come on. Come on. Gorgeous. You actually get 5, so these are 4, and then I just have tiny, tiny hands, and I'm bad at holding things. Here's the 5th one. Are you guys, like, I'm sure you understand how absolutely obsessed I am. Like, look at these. The very, very subtle, like, variation. They're also quite soft. None of these have individual names. Oh, I really hope some of these actually, I hope that all of these, but maybe one of these will like come back as a colorway again with Emily C. Gillies updates. And I wanted to buy from her because she's a local Toronto dyer. Well, she's in Thornhill, but that's still the GTA. And such gorgeous colorways. I already showed you that one. And I just, if I'm gonna buy a fancy yarn, I would like it to be Canadian, with occasional exceptions like this. And this so did not disappoint. And I told myself and I told you guys that this would be like a one-time special treat. And it's going to be hard to resist partaking again now knowing the quality that I am receiving. So these are going to become a pair of Rumphius socks by Emma of Bloom and Create. So it's a colorwork stripe sock, and these are going to be the main stripes, and this is going to be heel toe cuff. I'm not wedded to this, like these 4 stripes and then this heel toe. I'm not doing a very good job. Heel toe cuff, in part because I think that these have enough of a high contrast, well, also obviously going together because they're from the same kit. And then to be beautiful as stripes, but not mostly, that's a big reason. But also, this is the skein that has the most variation in color, and I don't want to lose that. Like, look at this. I don't want to lose that by doing colorwork striped socks. And so I think that the way to make this shine the most is to have it be by itself heel toe cuff. And it has taken a lot for me to not already cast those on. The main thing that has stopped me is, well, I don't have many sock needles. And also, I am so unsure of what the best stitch count and needle size is for me with an 8¼ centimeter foot, 8¼ inch circumference foot, for colorwork socks. I was watching an old episode of the Fiber Tales podcast, and Larga said that with a colorwork sock, you actually don't want a lot of negative ease at all. You want probably closer to 0 ease because of the floats. It makes things a lot less stretchy, a lot more rigid. And so if I'm going to use these stunning colors, I want it to be a sock that fits. You know, like I want it to work. So I solicited feedback on my Instagram story and I got a bunch of really useful stitch count and sock needle size suggestions from people who have similarly sized feet or people who just wanted to share. And I think I'm gonna do maybe a 2.25 or maybe just buy a 2mm needle. Yeah, a 2mm needle, sock needle, and maybe do like a 64 stitch count instead of my usual 56 stitch count, which is what I do when I want negatives in a sock. So yeah. And then I also got 2 more balls of Drops Air and Off-White because a year and a half ago when I first tried to pick up knitting, I got 2 balls of this in the hopes of making myself a sock. Nope. In the hopes of making myself a hat because it's super, super soft and fluffy for when I was bald. But then I never got around to doing that and I want to use it for a sweater. But I only had 2 balls and I've used some of that for swatching for other projects. So I got 2 more. I was going to get 3 more, but Knit-O-Matic didn't have a 3rd one. To knit myself a sweater, to get some yarn out of stash, and also I really would like, I talked about this in my Make 9. Oh, the Rumphius socks is also part of my Make 9. I want a neutral sweater, and I think a soft winter white will be lovely. 4 balls is almost certainly not enough, but that's okay because Knit-O-Matic has placed another order for Drops Air anyway, so I'll just pick up that last ball when I come back from my reading week in 3 weeks. And also, they're going to be 2 different dye lots anyway, at minimum in this, because I bought the other 2 a year and a half ago, and then these 2 now, so I'm going to have to alternate skeins throughout this project already, and so if I end up with a 3rd dye lot, it doesn't matter at this point. I have an idea for what I want for that sweater, but I'm going to have to do it myself. I won't be using a pattern. And so we'll see how that goes because I'm not, I can't do math. I can't grade, I can't figure things out, so I'm going to do my best, but there's a very good chance that I'll just end up ripping it out and then making an Aosta sweater, but at a smaller gauge using this. And then I also got myself 2 more cords because, this is 450, because one that's 100 centimeters or 40 inches, and then one that's 80 centimeters or 32 inches because I'm running low on them. One of mine broke, and I just didn't have very many to begin with. Yeah, those are all my acquisitions and my plans. I'm incredibly excited to go back to Ottawa. I'm also sad to leave Toronto. It's been kind of nice to be virtual for the past little bit so I could see my dad, spend some time with my mom, you know, do fun things with my boyfriend. That's not true, I've been in quarantine. But I'm also really excited to go back to Ottawa despite the current troubles and to be reunited with my friends because the restrictions are ending again on Monday or loosening on Monday, and my yarn stash so that I can start knitting from stash. I was so amped up to knit from stash, and then I ended up spending a lot more time here away from my stash, and then I bought a lot of yarn. So it really feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm using a lot of stash right now, but also not enough. So those are all of that's all my knitting updates, all my knitting news. I'm doing well, you guys. I hope you are too. And I'm really appreciative that you guys are here and spend time with me. I'm not kidding, I really mean it. I was really searching for a community and I found it. And I'm so grateful to every one of you. I'm grateful for your comments. I'm grateful for those who subscribe and come back and message me. For the first time, I think I've fallen behind on comments with school picking back up and kind of hitting the ground running for job applications for the summer. And just with everything that's been going on, I'm going to try and do another sweep of them very soon. But I definitely do read them. I take them into account and I appreciate them and you guys so much. I wish you all the best. We'll talk again in 3 weeks. And yeah. Okay. Bye.